Hey guys, so AI chip startup Groq spelled with a Q at the end as opposed to a K, is now expanding with a European data center. Now, this is a fairly big deal because a lot of European companies and European governments and basically anybody around the Europe area or in the EU are looking for servers and services directly placed in the EU, not only because of data privacy laws, but also because of certain political tensions between Europe and the United States and elsewhere amongst the world. So a lot of companies based in the EU or governments or whatever it may be are looking for services that are run directly in the EU. So this is actually a pretty good move. We're going to go ahead and cover it in today's video. Let's get right into it. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and read this article by CNBC. AI chip startup Groq expands with first European data center. So this is a semiconductor startup. It was actually one of my, not first video, but one of my starting original videos. It was actually talking about this company. They are a AI chip manufacturer. They make processors for AI workloads specifically, and their stuff is actually pretty good, very fast too. So, it's a little bit of an unfortunate naming because of XAI's Groq with a K, but, still, they're a pretty good company. Apparently, on Monday, they had announced that it has established its first data center in Europe as it steps up its international expansion. Groq, which is backed by investment arms of Samsung and Cisco, which are some pretty big names, said the data center will be located in Helsinki, I think that's how you pronounce it, Finland, and is in partnership with Equinix, which is a very, very popular data center provider. If you want data center workloads for whatever you're doing, if you need servers to be in a place, you usually will go with Equinix if you're looking for the big guns. You know what I'm saying? So Equinix, that's a pretty reputable name in the industry. Source, I have done extensive research in the IT industry. I am what one would call a nerd. I know several people who are in the IT industry, so it's a pretty popular name. You can look on Reddit and you can see that this is a pretty popular company in the IT industry. So, I guess it makes sense that they're in partnership with them because they run data centers all across the world. They have co-location services, etc. So it makes sense. Now, they're looking to take advantage of rising demand for AI services in Europe following other U.S. firms which have also ramped up investment in the region. So there's a reason for this, and I kind of pointed it out in the intro, but a lot of companies that are based in Europe, or not necessarily even companies, but government agencies that live in Europe, want services that are hosted within the regions of the EU. For example, and a lot of companies are trying to capitalize on this. For example, Microsoft is actually making a locally hostable version of Microsoft 365, and there's not much documentation about this other than a small little thing they announced a while back. But they're actually planning on making a hostable version of 365 that can run on your own hardware specifically for the EU, because there is such high demand for stuff that's run in the EU, or better yet, a lot of companies are looking for services that can be hosted on hardware they own, because as of right now, we've kind of had the approach of, how do I put this, for a while, companies that make software have had the approach of delivering things via a model called software as a service, which basically means that the software that's being run won't run on your own computer and will run on the company who made the software's computer. That's the reason, that model is the reason why we have things like Google Drive, Salesforce, etc. The whole concept of cloud. And a lot of companies like it, and a lot of companies don't. The reason why some companies don't like it is because while the concept of cloud reduces operational expense cost for their, whatever they're doing, it comes with the downside of that company has full control over whatever goes on there. And they can potentially snoop at what you're doing. Maybe they can get subpoenaed by the government, and then, oopsie, your stuff is now known by another government, or this, or that, or whatever it may be. There's a lot of scenarios where things can go very, 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 very wrong very fast, depending on who you are, what your work is, when you're using cloud services. Not only that, but it's also just very expensive. Cloud services are ludicrously expensive, not even just for individuals. Like, if you think upgrading your Google Drive is expensive, try doing it for a business with 50,000 employees, and the costs get ridiculous fast. So while there's a lot of people who do like cloud services, there's a lot of people who don't and would rather stay far away from them, which is why we're starting to get things like this. Now, there is some companies who will use cloud services, within Europe anyways, that will use cloud services, but on the pretense that the services are hosted within the borders of Europe and managed by a European government, which is what Groq is providing here. They have a data center that is going to be within the realm of Europe, which will definitely garner them some pretty big European company customers, because a lot of companies are looking for this, which, yeah, I guess it makes sense. People want sovereign compute. People over there want stuff that's within their own borders and not anywhere else. And to be honest, here in the U.S., we're starting to get we're kind of leaning towards a similar approach, because we're blocking certain, third-party things, we're trying to ban TikTok and whatnot. And I know it's not exactly the same thing, but it's a little similar if you think about it. We're trying to keep things sovereign and within our own borders. And Europe is kind of doing the same thing. They want stuff that is running in their own borders, or better yet, something that the company can run themselves in their own property. That's what we're starting to get, and that's what we're starting to see, which, again, is just kind of this weird shift, because for a while, a lot of companies were kind of buying into this whole cloud thing, where it's like you would run all of your stuff on AWS, or you're going to you want storage, we'll just use Google Drive or Dropbox or Office 365, OneDrive, SharePoint Cloud, whatever it may be. Where we kind of had this thing where for a while we were all companies around the world were trying to invest in cloud. And now some companies are starting to take this polar opposite approach of, I don't like cloud so much now, either because of the cost or purely because of a privacy standpoint. And now we're starting to see companies shift their approach a little bit to either say, okay, we will host it specifically in your region and have it worked on by citizens of your region to quell your privacy concerns, or they are going full out and saying, okay, you want something you can run on your own hardware? Here it is, something you can run on your own hardware. And this similar notion is now being set with AI. For example, European politicians have been pushing the notion of sovereign AI, where data centers must be located in the region. Now, there's another upside to this, and it's the fact that data centers that are located closer to the users will also help improve the speed of services, which is logical. If the distance between the user and the service is shorter, i.e., less cabling between the user and the service, it's obviously going to be faster. So that makes sense. But a majority of the reason all this is happening is because of mostly privacy concerns. So that's why we're starting to see this. So this is a pretty good move on Groq's part. They're now they're now listening to a specific kind of niche for the moment market. And the people who are looking for sovereign AI typically are also the ones with a lot of money to spend on it. So, you know what? Because we're talking about like big companies in Europe or actual European government agencies. So, we're talking big money here. So, admittedly, this is a pretty good move on their part. I'll say this. This is a good move on their part. That's about it for today's video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe. Take care, you guys, and remember to stay safe out there.